I know we're just 3 episodes in, but after a premiere that destroyed a planet and a second episode that pulled a man's entrails through a window, I think the best word for this season of Strange New Worlds is, well, whiplash. I don't mean that in a bad way, by the way. The tonal shift can be jarring, but I'm having a lot of fun, and the 3rd episode is the most fun so far. If I had to describe this episode in just one line, I'd say this is the episode where the entire crew of the Enterprise gets completely, catastrophically, categorically wasted. Human Best Friend is essentially this season's comedy episode, and the best comparison I can make here is that it's the Hangover, but in space. This episode has a tribble, terrible costumes, bar fights with bingo playing space vampires, and number 1 belting out power ballads in Klingon. Plus, it sets up the most famous friendship in Star Trek history. So I think it's time to stop waffling and get right into it. This is the full recap and what the ending actually means and where we're heading next week. So let's dive on in. How the crew ended up hung over on a pleasure planet. This episode opens with 2 people who can't stand each other, Lieutenant Erica Ortegas and Lieutenant Montgomery Scott. We see their personal logs, which are basically them complaining about each other while pretending they don't want to complain. Ortegas has been flying aggressively and burning out components, and Scotty, sick of cleaning up her mess, has rigged warning alarms on her helm console, which she immediately covers up and fully ignores. This rivalry has been building for a while, and this is the episode for it to explode, or maybe evolve. We'll see. Pike, meanwhile, has finally realized that the crew is running on fumes. After all, they've been on missions for 6 months non-stop, and the lack of rest is his fault since he's so driven by his own grief over Battelle. He orders some shore leave at the Cesnar Grand, a technology-free pleasure resort on a planet with an intoxicating atmosphere that gives every single guest their own personalized, mind-altering journey. You see what I meant about the Hangover? Also, there's Rhodaxian peace talks scheduled, and the Enterprise is meant to help broker an end to a civil war, but as far as everyone knows, that's 2 weeks away, so taking some downtime for R&R is perfectly fine. Sure. Fine, maybe, but safe? Not so much. The atmospheric drug starts working on the crew before the shuttle even touches down. It's a fun sequence with enough wild colors and warped camera angles to make anyone feel drugged. And then we get a glorious smash cut to the morning after, and, well, everyone's messed up, to say the least. The Hangover begins. Ortegas wakes up in a trashed room with her arm in a cast, a tribble scuttling across the floor, and Scotty passed out in what is very clearly a Mugatu costume. Now, there are worse ways to wake up, but the problem is that neither of them remembers a single thing after the shuttle landed. The hangover intensifies here because nobody knows what happened, no one even knows where they are, and the whole hour almost immediately becomes a scavenger hunt to reconstruct the night and deal with the wreckage. Enter Dendru, the resort's endlessly cheerful cruise director, played by Dave Foley, who's got a note for Pike. It's kind of weird to see someone carrying an actual physical note, but because this is no high-tech planet, somebody has to hand-deliver it. Ortegas draws the short straw here, and since a drunk Scotty can't be trusted alone, she reluctantly drags him along. Mind you, she plans to dump him on Pike the second she finds the captain, so don't start calling her chivalrous yet. What's next is basically a montagey tour through the crew's individual benders, and I think this is one of the most fun parts of the entire show because we get some great character moments, including Spock insisting he's drunk and claiming he's hallucinating Kirk standing next to him. Once Ortegas and Scotty leave, imaginary Kirk gives him a hug, a callback to the mind meld the two shared last season. Sweet, sure, but also kind of ridiculous because how many hallucinations is Spock going to have to deal with this season? Then we've got Uhura, who we just saw getting stressed about how particular the Rhodaxians are and wanted to take the full 2 weeks practicing talking with them. Now, though, she's a full-blown party girl in a sparkly outfit, thoroughly stoned, and uninterested in anything but her journey. She's demanding that everyone bring her cookies, and honestly, good for her. Then there's number 1, who we all know is the most tightly wound officer on the ship, and they're doing karaoke at a bar. To be more specific, she's giving it her all as she belts out Total Eclipse of the Heart in Klingon. Also, she's got about 15 more Klingon power ballads queued up right behind it because why not? Not only is this bit funny, it's also extremely impressive, because Rebecca Romaine reportedly worked with a dialect coach for this, knowing full well that people who spoke fluent Klingon in the real world would be listening closely. Mbenga is behind the bar, flair bartending like Tom Cruise in Cocktail, thrilled to finally be doing something with his hands where nobody's life is on the line. I mean, fair enough, bartending is definitely more stress-free compared to being the medical officer in charge of a ship full of idiots. I mean, no offense, I love him, but yeah, that's what we're talking about. And last but not least, we've got Captain Pike at the tattoo parlor, because clearly getting drunk and getting a regrettable tattoo is a tradition that's stood the test of time. He's seriously considering getting his face inked and couldn't care less about the note until Ortegas makes him read it. The Rhodaxian delegation isn't arriving in 2 weeks, it's arriving in 2 hours, with the entire senior crew missing or wasted, or missing and wasted on an alien atmosphere that makes everyone drunk. Whoops. The scavenger hunt for the shuttle. So with that ticking clock in mind, the episode finally kicks into hyperdrive. Pike sends Ortegas and Scotty to retrieve the shuttle while he rounds everyone up. It should be simple, except the shuttle's been moved, and the valet reveals she handed the chip to a very drunk Scotty hours earlier. Predictably, Scotty has no idea where it is. Cue Ortegas going nuclear on him for losing their ride home. The comedy and the disasters just keep escalating. They go back to Uhura for her smuggled tricorder, but she only surrenders after they clear their energy with a couple of pathetic fake apologies to each other. Scotty sees the shuttle on the resort's security feed, then tosses the tricorder to Ortegas without looking, and it just flies over a railing and shatters on the floor below. Literally nothing can go right at this point, so they have no choice but to turn to the one crew member who's definitely had a wild night, but is still vaguely functional: Spock. Spock sits down and mind melds with the desk plant in the security office, which works for some weird reason, and he finds out that the shuttle's been stashed up north and guarded by thieves. He recommends they recruit Lon as muscle, and then goes off to rest. What makes this particularly funny is that he spends this whole scene seeing both Ortegas and Scotty as houseplants. Lon, as it turns out, has hijacked a resort relaxation class and rebranded it as jujitsu, and the students are too scared to tell her anything. Basically, she's exactly the muscle they need. When they reach the shuttle, she strolls up to the thugs guarding it all la-di-da, then beats one of them senseless. In fact, she appoints herself their leader and demands Scotty's garish Mugatu on a surfboard shirt as tribute for her new gang. You'd think a gang leader would have better demands, but not this time. When they finally find the shuttle behind a billboard, it's damaged and its operating chip missing, which is why the thieves couldn't sell it. Ortega smacks the console in frustration, which boots it up, which means that the chip is somewhere close. It's revealed that the chip has actually been hidden inside Ortegas' cast the whole time. The moment they retrieve it, however, masked figures throw bags over their heads and kidnap them. Typical. The heart of the episode. Two screw-ups find each other. Tied to chairs, and after a little interlude where Scotty is convinced they've stolen his eyeballs, the two finally have it out. And this is where the comedy simmers down for a little bit and things actually get serious. Ortegas can't understand why Scotty isn't angry at her when she's spent all day blaming him, even though she had the chip the whole time. His answer is that he grew up with 6 brothers, and he was always the one who got blamed. Usually, it really was his fault, so he just assumed the same thing was happening here. This is what he's used to. That's just sad, and now I want to give Scotty a hug. Turns out, Dendru is behind the kidnapping, but Scotty is actually the reason why. While he was drunk, Scotty begged him to keep them away from the shuttle and tie them up if necessary. As they leave, Dendru offers a little Zen wisdom because how can you end a Hangover episode without some? If you go looking for a reason to be angry, you'll always find one. The real question is whether you can deal with what's truly bothering you. Dendru then points them towards Room C, the bingo hall, where Nurse Chapel has pretty much gone feral and is threatening a table of little old ladies who turn out to be fanged, red-eyed space vampires. Naturally, there's a brawl. Lon's new gang piles in, and Ortegas has to physically drag Lon out as she howls, "Avenge me." Scotty, meanwhile, scoops up Nurse Chapel, and they get the hell out of there. The ending explained. A bomb, a sacrifice, and an accidental peace treaty. At last, everybody's on board the shuttle, visibly hungover. Una is still draped in her karaoke feather boa, and Pike is sporting that face tattoo because no one was there to stop him, clearly. That'll be fun to explain to his superiors. Up next, they have to represent the Federation in extremely fragile peace talks, while their systems are still drugged up, and sure enough, on the transporter deck, Pike and Una keep giggling, and the Rhodaxian delegation is just totally baffled as to what's going on. Down in the shuttle, Ortegas finds Scotty already trying to repair it, and they finally apologize. For real this time. And then, of course, they find a bomb. as you do. When Scotty takes off a console panel, he finds it, and they realize that if he moves his hands, it detonates. Ortegas sprints for help, but Pike is mid-negotiation and unreachable, and it's not like she can go running around the whole place shouting about a bomb, not when the Rhodaxians are right there. She whispers the warning to Uhura instead, who's still stoned, and it somehow devolves into a madcap game of telephone. By the end of it, bomb has somehow become avocado. Spock uses what he calls reverse human logic and decodes the nonsense and realizes there's a bomb. He digs up a video that drunk Ortegas and Scotty recorded to their future selves, warning that the shuttle was sabotaged, that the chip was hidden in the cast, and that under no circumstances should the shuttle be brought back to the Enterprise, which is exactly why their intoxicated selves hid it and told Dendru to keep them away from it. Finally, things are clearing up. But there's still the matter of the bomb, so Spock analyzes the device. He determines the blast would be catastrophic, and the only option here is that Scotty has to fly the bomb away in the shuttle while Ortegas pilots, since his hands are occupied. Spock will beam them out of the shuttle at the moment of detonation. While setting the transporter, Spock wishes aloud for a second pair of hands, so of course, James Kirk appears. Spock still thinks he's a hallucination, so Kirk slaps him hard to prove he's real. I'm sure just about every iteration of Kirk ever has wanted to slap Spock at one point, so this is kinda long overdue. Meanwhile, Ortegas and Scotty have kind of a sweet moment where they say they think they would have been friends before they fly the shuttle away so the bomb is clear of the Enterprise. It explodes in a gorgeous shower of colorful fireworks right outside the negotiation window. Don't worry, Scotty and Ortegas make it back safely, although Scotty does lose a finger. The funniest thing here is that the Rhodaxians, who happen to be big sticklers for ceremony, mistake the explosion for their own formal rite of peace, an ancient, expensive, and dangerous ritual that hasn't been performed in generations. They're absolutely overwhelmed that Starfleet has gone to such lengths to honor them, so the delegation, which had been offended as hell because everyone on deck was being crazy, immediately agrees to continue the talks. Pike, hiding his bewilderment, pulls them into a hug. All's well that ends well, as they say. What the ending means. Kirk was real the whole time. My favorite part of this episode was the reveal that Kirk was never a hallucination. He was on holiday at Cesnar the entire episode and was bumping into Spock and getting to know him the whole time. Spock, believing none of it was real, actually opened up completely, sharing his hopes, dreams, and fears with a man he thought was imaginary. Clearly, this guy's been around too many hallucinations. But not to worry, because Kirk's parting line is a promise that those many, many secrets were safe with him. And that's why the episode is titled Human Best Friend. Sure, the episode is about Scotty and Ortegas, but Spock and Kirk are the subtle heart of it, as they have been since 1966. I mean, Spock says outright that he's never had a best friend, and we know from Star Trek lore that he pretty much never had friends growing up. This vulnerability, a Vulcan lowering every wall because he thinks there are no consequences, is the exact foundation that the original series' legendary Kirk and Spock friendship is built on, and I absolutely love it. The show is deliberately dramatizing the birth of Trek's most iconic bond, and we all know Gene Roddenberry would approve. In fact, he's the one who brought up the ancient Vulcan concept of Tahila, a word Roddenberry himself once defined as meaning something between friend, brother, and lover to describe Spock and Kirk. Ethan Peck and Paul Wesley have both described this moment as one of the catalysts for the friendship we all know is coming, with Wesley half joking that he was essentially playing Spock's therapist. Back in the bar, the crew fills in the blanks. The costumes came from a costume party they crashed looking for Pike, and the total blackout came from a Dragon Ball. No, not the manga, a party drug that was meant to be shared by the whole room, but which Ortegas and Scotty had apparently had all by themselves. The saboteur, a Rhodaxian militant who didn't want peace with the Federation, has been caught. Meanwhile, Mbenga has become a brilliant bottle flipper, Chapel wants to make it an annual retreat, and over the credits, we get some more of Una's Klingon total eclipse of the heart over footage of the crew going wild. What's next? A case of chiaroscuro predictions. Now we get back to why I said the best word for this season was whiplash. If you thought space horror to stoner comedy was crazy enough, next week the show changes gears again, and you won't see this one coming. Episode 4, called A Case of Chiaroscuro, comes out next Thursday, August 13th, and here's the official synopsis. Una is mistaken for a resistance leader and drawn into a struggle against Klingon occupation. The biggest hint is in the title, though. Chiaroscuro is an art and photography term for the dramatic interplay of light and shadow, the deep blacks and bright whites you see in Renaissance paintings, and more importantly for the next episode, classic film noir. And that's exactly what this episode is. It's going to be a lavish black and white noir, styled like something from the golden age of film, kind of like Casablanca. Apparently, they've gone so far as to figure out an in-universe reason to shoot the whole thing in monochrome, the idea being a planet in Klingon-occupied space where the light itself only reflects in black and white. It's maybe the show's biggest stylistic swing, second only to the musical episode in Season 2, and don't forget, we've got an episode coming up where everyone except Spock turns into puppets. Keep an eye on our channel for that one because I'm going to have a lot of fun covering it. Anyways, our next episode is obviously focusing on Una. She's mentioned right in the synopsis, and the showrunners have described it as an exploration of who she really is. And that's significant because Una's arc from the beginning has been about identity. She's an Illyrian who spent her career hiding what she was, who got court-martialed because of it, and was acquitted. This season, she's been more free and more confident, a woman finally stepping into leadership, so no wonder a story where she's mistaken for a resistance leader, where other people look at her and see someone who commands and inspires and fights back against tyranny, is completely perfect for the journey she's on. I think this is going to be the episode where Una finally stops thinking of herself as a perpetual number one and starts to believe she's worthy of a captain's chair. The Klingons, as always, are a great choice no matter what kind of story Star Trek plans to tell with them. A black and white wartime resistance drama in occupied territory is obviously reminiscent of World War II film noir, the occupiers, the resistance cells, the morally gray figures playing both sides in smoky rooms. Now, this is going to be an episode full of double crosses, hidden loyalties, and Una having to decide just how far she's willing to go for people she doesn't know, but who think she's their savior. We know Curry Graham is guest starring as a character named Tur, and I bet he's either the ally you can't fully trust or the guy pulling the strings from the shadows. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this episode was style over substance, so here's a warning to not go in expecting a thriller that rivals Hitchcock or anything like that. I also doubt that the plot lines in this one are going to stretch into the rest of the season. It'll be a feast for the eyes, and for the film nerds, and for everyone who loves Una and Rebecca Romijn, which is more than good enough for a character-focused filler episode. Although, when a season only has 10 episodes, maybe filler episodes aren't the best idea. So, we've now had classic Trek, then horror, then comedy, and next we've got noir on our plate. 4 completely different genres in 4 weeks. The second half of the season is gonna get heavy again. Sure, episode 5 is the much-teased puppet episode made with Jim Henson's Creature Shop, but then the season will absolutely be marching towards the Tomorrow's Enterprise finale and the eventual handover of this ship to a young James Kirk. Things to keep a lookout for, I'd say, include the thing with Lon's barely contained rage that keeps escalating every week and which is clearly building to something, and of course, the Kirk and Spock bond that this week was really set into motion. So that was Human Best Friend, which was basically Star Trek's version of The Hangover, and it managed to sneak in a foundational Star Trek friendship, along with a bunch of Easter eggs and Klingon karaoke. What did you make of the reveal that Kirk was real all along? And are you ready for the show to go full black and white film noir for the next episode? Or maybe you're waiting for the puppet episode because, I mean, who isn't? Let us know your thoughts and theories in the comments section down below, but otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.